Hey guys, we're here again. Week 4 power rankings for World Pokemon Federation. You know the drill. Um, yeah. It's been. Let's see, it's going up on Thursday. Matches will be up tomorrow. Then they'll probably be up. At this point, Thursday is a solid day to assume that they're going to be up. Wednesdays are optimal, but meh. Probably Thursdays. Anyway, let's get right into the PRs. First off, we got Razor Claw. He was sitting at number 15 last week. He drops one after its Danny Mac goes up. Um, Razor Claw has just consistently, I'm not going to say gotten worse, but the team's bad. I mean, the team's awful. It's insane how bad his team is. It really is. He played Arc, and both of them were sitting at 0-3 going into the week, so somebody was going to get their first win. Um, Whoever it was, it ended up being Arc, which is good because he deserved to win week 3. So, you know. So one thing about Razor is he's had a really tough schedule. You see his last two, Graving at Will. Obviously, this one versus Arc isn't supposed to necessarily be a tough one, but Arc should be 2-2 right now. So it's not really as bad as it looks. Yeah, I mean, Razor's team is just not good. You see the 6 that he brought. Arc brought Azelf, Cinderace, Landorus, Ninetales, Regirock, and Victory Bell. It was Scarf Azelf. It was just Boots, Trailblaze, Court Change, Swords Dance, Pyro Ball, Cinderace. Scarf Landorus, Heat Rock Ninetales, I believe. Regirock was, what was the item? I remember, but it was 3 attacks, no rocks. And then just Terra Fire Victory Bell. So Razor's team was really interesting. He brought his own Scarf Zarude. It was Shukaberry, Pheasant Dippity, which is pretty good here. Moonblast, Icy Wind, Calm Mind Roost. The Golduck was Scarf. Wait, no, Zarude. No, he did have double Scarf. Like they both brought double Scarf. What are the chances of seeing 4 Scarfers in a game? Anyway, it was Scarf Zarude and Scarf Golduck. Gastrodon was Ice Beam, Earth Power, Spikes, Memento with a Custap Berry. Pretty cool set. Avalugg was AV, which is crazy. Terra Ghost. And Meloetta was Specs. With Hyper Beam, Relic Song, Psychic Trick. So lead preview, we get like on matchup. I don't really know who I would have favored. Razor's team is just significantly worse, so generally when it comes to just pure matchup, I'm going to probably favor the opponent just because his team is once again awful. But yeah, Cinderace, really big problem if it gets a Trailblaze up, which it kind of just does because there's 2 things. That's one thing it really gets a Trailblaze up on. Like, it doesn't really click Trailblaze for free. But like, the issue is Pyro Ball is extremely free and forces in Gastro and forces in like Terra Ghost Avalugg, and those are really the only switch-ins. So it's really problematic because on Avalugg it doesn't necessarily beat. I mean, it forces a switch on Cinderace, I guess, but Gastro just allows a Trailblaze up, which I didn't even know Cinderace got Trailblaze. So, but he had it. So yeah, lead preview on lead. We get, what was it? I believe it was Ninetales and Gastrodon. It was Ninetales Gastrodon lead. Turn 1, the Gastro goes for Spikes, and Ninetales goes for Nasty Plot. So interestingly enough, this Ninetales was like Energy Ball. I don't know why it was Energy Ball. I don't know if it was for Cloud 9 Golduck, but if it was, good prep. If it wasn't, I don't know what else it was for. But yeah, it ended up being Energy Ball, which is huge because I don't know that I wouldn't have gone hard Golduck on Solar Beam, because then you would just automatically kill Ninetales. You would have 100% on everything and a Spike Up, and Ninetales would be dead. I mean, and there's nothing you could do. I don't know that I wouldn't have gone hard Golduck though on Solar Beam, expecting a Solar Beam, so it'd take 2 turns because Cloud9 immune as the sun stops the sun. I don't know that I wouldn't have done that, but Razor Claw doesn't. He goes Zarude on Flame or Earth. Sorry, Energy Ball, and then you turns out with Zarude into hard Golduck. So yeah, he gets in Golduck. It takes like 40%, and then Zarude takes like 20%. It's not much, but Golduck can kill Ninetales. Golduck goes for a water move. I think it was just Surf. And Art goes Azelf, which was really weird because he had like Victory Bell, but I understand kinda because if it's not Scarf, like I think he's expected to be Scarf. So I think at that point you probably should just committed to it being Scarf. But I guess I understand. But taking like he took like 75% on Azelf, and the Golduck stays in because he doesn't expect Azelf to be Scarf. Which, it is weird because Scarf Azelf feels like it doesn't really do anything this game. The only things it's like here for is like Agility Grass maybe, and like it didn't even have a Psychic move. It was Fire move, Grass Knot, U-turn. I think it was some weird crap. It didn't even have a Psychic move. So like I don't think it had a Psychic move. No, it didn't. It definitely didn't. I forget its moves though. It was Fire move, Grass move, U-turn. I'm not sure. But yeah, he couldn't actually like beat even like Pheasant. He definitely had a Psychic. Oh no, he had Fire Blast. I don't know. It wasn't a Psychic move. Maybe it was knockoff. It's probably knockoff for Meloetta. Probably knockoff for Meloetta, I'm guessing. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have expected Scarf Azelf either, but to be fair, I probably would have scouted for Scarf Azelf because you're very scared about it. The issue is your team doesn't really switch into Scarf Azelf. Like, Zarude was probably good though, and because your Scarf Zarude and you can just U-turn out. I think Scarf Zarude was pretty much a 100% safe switch. The worst thing that can happen on that turn would be rocks. But so I understand not allowing rocks, but the odds of Azelf being the rocker when there's a Landorus and a Regirock are low. I mean, it's not a 0%. It's not a 0 chance because like Azelf's not an awful rocker. I feel like Reggie is the obvious rocker though. But yeah, the Golduck dies early, and it's very important to this team. Because Golduck with Water Move, it's completely free versus this team. Victory Bell takes probably not much, but if you can manage to get, like, you have spikes up, so every time he's gonna take spikes, and there's no way to remove them on his team, unless he core changes, which he doesn't do. So spikes are up all game. And Golduck was very good here. So I think Scarf Zarude was probably always your play, just in case. But he ends up getting in Meloetta, and Regirock takes like 80% from a Psychic, because the Azelf switches out. But then, what happens? I forget what happens then. I think the Meloetta. Did Meloetta stay in? I heard when it clicked. I think he switched to Gastrodon in case Cuss Step. I forget what happens there. But either way, Meloetta does not come out with a kill there, I believe. Yeah, it doesn't come out with a kill there, I don't think. Unless he sacks Azelf. And he might have just sacked Azelf. That might have been what he did. And then gets in. I don't think that's what he did. I don't know. I think it was Custap Reggie or something. Like, I don't remember. Either way, we end up getting a turn with Regirock in on Gastrodon. Or on Avalugg? I don't remember. I watched this game a while ago. But we end up getting turns with like Victory Bell under Sun. And the Zarude is in. Or no, the Pheasantipiti's in. No. Zarude. What was in? Was it Pheasantipity? It was Pheasantipity. The Pheasantipity ends up coming in as Victory Bell comes in. A Terrafire, Fire Blast, or Terrafire, Terra Blast, and it does like 50 something %. And Razor makes a solid play and just Icy Winds. I mean, it's the obvious play, but it's just the right one. Gets its speed down. If it doesn't Terra, it's going to take a super effective Icy Wind. But it did Terra, so now he's slower than Zarude. So Pheasantipiti's side and gets in Zarude. He makes the knock play, I believe. And I think that's where he's all sacked. Or either Regirock. Something gets sacked there. And the Victory Bell manages to come back in. And he clicks Terra Blast Fire on the Gastrodon. And then Gastrodon switches back out into Zarude on Power... He switches back to Zarude on Power Whip. And then at that point, Sun's out. So Zarude U-turns, kills the Victory Bell. And he gets in Meloetta. So this is where the game gets really tough. Because then the Landorus comes in. So at this point in time, we are down to Zarude, Gastrodon, Meloetta. Meloetta's at full. Zarude's at like 70, 60, somewhere around there. And Gastrodon's also at about that range, like the 60, 70 mark. Landorus at full and Cinderace is at full. So Landorus comes in on Meloetta, and at this point Landorus has not came out. You have no idea it's Scarf, which is really problematic because obviously you're not going to assume it's Scarf because you've already revealed Scarf Azelf. So there's like multiple things he could have done here. Like the thing is, he had multiple ways to win, but he didn't do any of them. But the issue was he didn't know the Landorus set, which is obviously an issue. But yeah, the Meloetta goes for a Relic Song because he expects to turn into the fighting form and be faster than Landorus. Fair play, but I assume that's what it was. How fast is Relic Song? How fast is that Meloetta? I don't actually know. Meloetta how do you say that? Pirouette? I think that's right. It is 128. Yeah, it's way faster. I don't know about that Pokemon. But he expects to be faster than Landorus, and it dies to 2 Earth Powers. So the problem there is that he expects it to be like a Life Orb Landorus at that point, which is fair to assume. But he takes the first Earth Power, it does like 45%. At that point, I think you should always go Zarude. But no, that doesn't matter though. Maybe you always Gastrodon. Or maybe you're just funked at that point. Maybe, hold on. Maybe you're just funked at that point. I think you're just screwed. Yeah, no. After that took the Earth Power, I think it was over. But if he had clicked Psychic... Cinderace couldn't Trailblaze. It would have to... Okay, so... Gastrodon should have came in on the Landorus. Because... But the issue is if it's Life Orb, it's going to kill. And then... You still have to end up going Meloetta. And at that point, you just lose it again. So, like... It's not an easy end game. Because you don't know the Landorus set. If it's Life Orb, you want to go Meloetta. If it is Scarf, you have to go Gastro. And obviously, it's much less likely that it's Scarf Lando at that point because he's already revealed Scarf Azelf, and he expects Life Orb, so he goes Meloetta. If it was Life Orb, to be honest, I don't know if you had a route to win. I'm not seeing it. Well, if it was Life Orb, and you could, like... I think you probably could have gone Meloetta and then baited the Earth Power, because he's Custap. He's Custap on the Gastrodon. So he could bait the Earth Power, hopefully live, and if he lives, he can Custap, Ice Beam, kill Landorus, and at that point, Cinderace can't sweep because Meloetta is at 100%. He had to do that, but the issue is, again, it's Scarf. So you have to just outright go Gastrodon, or just switch, either way. I think Meloetta and then switch hard into Gastrodon was always the play, because I think that gives you a borderline 100% win? Unless Earth Power kills Gastrodon at the range it was at. I don't know. So the issue with Razor Claw has been, and he hasn't looking for Slanders, but that shit doesn't matter. The issue with Razor Claw is the team's bad, and his prep, it's fine. It's weird, but it's definitely like, I understand. Like this prep, I understand. Last week's was wild. This week's I actually understand and think it wasn't bad. Just the issue was team diff and not knowing that Lander is set, and not knowing any sets really. Like the Arc sets really fucked him over here because, or fucked Razor, because Razor just, he didn't know anything, and it caused really big issues late game especially. He's played tough opponents. He's gonna get wins. It's just a matter on who. Then we get me. I get funked up. Honestly, it's pretty simple. He gets a Moonblast drop with Diancie, and I don't get a Scald burn on 2 Scalds. But, I mean, I should have had Psychic on Slowking. So what happens is, Urshifu sets up on Slowking, or sets up a Swords Dance on the Dunsparce. And the issue with the Moonblast drop is I could have just stayed in if I was that, if I wasn't dropped. But Moonblast, or Boomburst won't, I don't believe, because I was -1, it wouldn't to a KO. So I couldn't stay in. But Slowking should have had Psychic every day of the week. It just should have had it. It's really as simple as that. Like, there's nothing else to say. I just should have had Psychic on Slowking. Nothing else mattered because it just swept me from that point. Got Trailblazers off. I didn't get a burn. I went for 2 Scalds. Didn't get a burn. He got a Moonblast drop immediately on a Dunsparce, which really sucked. But, I mean, I'm literally asking for luck at that point. So it's like, here we are. Well, it's not so much that I'm asking for luck. It's just like, I'm just asking to not get lucked. But like, again, this is not a hacksy game that I lost because I got hacked. I lost because I didn't have Psychic on Slowking, and I was greedy, like Iron Defense stuff. Complete greed. I mean, just complete greed. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to say. I just drop a lot because at that point, it's like, well, what else are you gonna do? And I just talked about it. But SD Trailblazer Shifu sweeps. He brought up Strika. It was a Salt Vest. I saw that. That's pretty cool. It didn't come out. Iron Boulder, Excadrill, didn't come out. Here's Sandforce Drill, which is pretty scary. But yeah, none of this mattered because SD Trailblazer Shifu swept. There's not really much to say. Lucky Moonblast drop, but when you think about it in this way, it's like we went for combined 330% moves, and one of them happened. So when you think about it that way, it's literally just, it's kind of just by math, it just makes sense. We went for 3 1/3 chances, and one of them happened. Yeah, he got the Moonblast drop, which sucked, but should have had Psychic on Slowking. Then we get a Sableye, who was dropped by far the farthest. He in terms of like where he's changed. Sableye was like number 2 to start the season, and I thought his team was really strong. I mean, hey, look at it, just strong. Has Haxorus, strong Pokemon, Web's option. Terra Glacier is really good. Ursaluna is still a good Pokemon. Not a great Pokemon, but a good Pokemon. Jirachi, good. Iron Valiant, good. Serena's pretty decent. Like, he doesn't really have a Pokemon that can't come. Poliwrath is like his worst Pokemon. And like, I would have brought Poliwrath here. I 100% would have brought Poliwrath here. But we'll get into that in a second. Sableye has really struggled since week 1. To be fair, he's played 3-1 Dashing Sceptile, 2-2 CB Marcus, and 3-1 Fist-Tier Doom. Played hard opponents, but he hasn't played them close really at all. I remember he got smashed by... I think he got smashed by No, he did. He got smashed by CB Marcus. And then this week, it wasn't a smashing. Like, the issue was he brought Iron Valiant Specs, which is genuinely the only Iron Valiant that wasn't good here. Booster is good. Boots is fine. Booster just makes sense. He has 2 spikers. He has 3 spikers. He has 3 spikers. Boost just makes sense. But to be fair, he's probably defying every time. It could be Booster. It could be Boots. It could be Scarf. Even Scarf's not bad. I wouldn't bring Scarf ever here, but Scarf's better than Specs. Like, Leftovers. Leftovers is good. I wouldn't bring Leftovers here either, but Citrus is very reasonable. What's a Psychic Berry? Literally anything else. I'm just saying any other Valiant. Valiant needs the ability to switch up moves here. It's not spamming Moonblast. It's clicking Moonblast and Thunderbolt. That's the issue here. He can't click Moonblast and Thunderbolt because he's choiced. If you get... Like... This just should have been anything else. I don't know. Like, even Physical was fine here. I definitely think Special was better. But, like, even Physical made some sense. But, like, I don't know. He brought the one Valiant that was not good here. And Valiant's very good here. It's just he brought the one that wasn't. And he brought a Haxorus that is Scale Shot, Earthquake, Swords Dance, and Dragon Tail. You see anything wrong with that? Because I do. The Haxorus cannot touch Corv. Like, Corv walled everything. It walled Overquill completely. It completely walled Hax. It completely walled Rabombi. It completely walled Serena. And it walls a Iron Valiant launching Moonblast. It walls literally 4.5 out of 6 of these Pokemon. The only Pokemon that can beat it is Chandelure, and Chandelure can take 1 Brave Bird. Brave Bird is also very spammable into this team. He has no Brave Bird switch. Nothing. The 2 Pokemon that can potentially beat Corviknight cannot switch into Brave Bird. Valiant takes probably like... It probably doesn't die. It takes like probably 80%. Something like that. And then Chandelure's taking how much ever, I don't really know. It's probably around 50. But like, you have nothing to beat Corviknight. Just nothing. And to be fair, the only things you could have brought were Terra Electric, Glacier, which is tough into like Garchomp, Volcanion. Even like Iron Thorns too. Annihilate as well. Or like Special Jirachi, which is also bad here, because Darkrai, because Garchomp, because Volcanion. Like, his matchup's probably not good. But he didn't help himself at all. He gets T-Spikes up turn 1 for, like, 85% into Overquill. Which is bad, because now Darkrai is good. And otherwise, it wouldn't be good. It's really as simple as that. Uh, and it's another thing that you probably should have Poliwrath for, because it helps with Darkrai, it helps with Volcanion, it helps with two of the biggest threats. Like, especially defensive Poliwrath doesn't really have anything wrong with it. I don't know if it gets Scald, but if it gets Scald, you'd run Scald. If it doesn't, then it's more annoying, but, like, I don't know. You had to have something for Volcanion, and you didn't. But his opponent just leads Volcanion. Like, his opponent brings Darkrai, Garchomp, Corv, Iron Thorns, Volcanion, Annihilape. He leads Deoxys. So yeah, he just leads Volcanion, gets damage into that Overquill, and then he just switches to Corv and Defox. Overquill is never doing anything, and we get in this Stally situation. But eventually he gets in Chandelure on Corv, and he gets the Shadow Ball play into Garchomp for like 50%, which is big. Because that one's a big threat. And he has to switch out though, because it could be Scarf Chomp. Chomp switches into Darkrai, which basically reveals that it's not Scarf. Which is big, because you don't want to face Scarf Chomp. Your team's really Chomp weak. Which might be worse, because Scale Shot probably sweeps you then. But we'll get there when we get there. But yeah, he goes on Chomp, he goes Rabombi, and the opponent goes Darkrai. So that forces Darkrai out into Corv. But no. Darkrai stays in the first time. And he goes for Stun Spore, I believe. And he misses Stun Spore, which sucks. Because then the Darkrai takes nothing. He doesn't get paralyzed, which is big because Darkrai's a threat, and it would make it slower than Valiant, and slower than Hex, and slower than Overquill, and slower than Serene. It's literally everything. Literally everything. His team's very fast, but it doesn't really help him here because it's not fast enough. But yeah, Corv just comes in on Rabombi. He gets a paralysis off, which doesn't matter at all. Just because it doesn't help unless Corv gets full paired on important turns. The issue is this Corv has so many free turns. Because the issue is Hacks can do nothing to it. Overquill can do nothing to it. Serena can do nothing to it. It gets so many free turns. Because 3 Pokemon, just 4. Rabombi can't do anything to it. 4 Pokemon cannot do anything to Corv. The most they can do is like 20%. So unless you get insane para luck, Corv's just not going to go down. So this para doesn't matter. For the most part. And I don't think he ever gets full para. I don't think he ever gets full para either. So it really... Oh no, he gets full para on a defog. I think. But either way, I don't remember. He gets full para at some point. But like, it doesn't matter. Because it's just so good into this team. But yeah, Chandelure ends up getting in on Corviknight again, and he Fire Blasts hard into Darkrai, which is huge because he gets the play right. I think the Chandelure just switches out then because it could technically you knew it wasn't Scarf because Rabombi. No, your Darkrai's faster than Rabombi. Yeah, so he just Sludge Bombs. So it could technically be Scarf. So he has to switch out again. And he goes Overquill, I believe. Darkrai switches into Volcanion, I think. Volcanion on Overquill, I believe, is the situation we end up with. But at that point, I think he just goes back to Corv. I forget what he does. Basically, we get into an end game with Chandelure. No, that's what it is. It is Overquill on Volcanion, and the Overquill switches into Serena, and he gets he gets in Chandelure. He just clicks Fire Blast again, and Volcanion gives in. He misses on Volcanion, but it doesn't matter. Flame Charge. Then he Flame Charges hard into Serena. I thought that it was kind of crazy to go for... No. Wait, I think something's wrong. I forget the situation. Because, like, the Flame Charge wasn't free. Because I think what it was though is just that the Chandelier had not revealed Scarf yet. So if he wasn't Scarf, then he could have just Shadow Balled. And if he was Flash Fire, then Volcania's not even getting the Flame Charge off, and he maybe get 2-hit KO'd by Shadow Ball. That was the issue, is that this Chandelier had not revealed Scarf at any point. The only thing was that Darkrai, unless it switched out on Darkrai, but I think it stayed in on Darkrai at that point. So maybe he had a reveal Scarf, which maybe means Flame Charge was free. Either way, he gets a Flame Charge off into Serena, kills it with Fire Blast. That forces him to Haxorus, which gives him free Corviknight every time because Haxorus is completely walled. Corv U-turns on Hax Dragon Tail, which is big. Kinda, not really. But then eventually we get into a situation where the Annihilate is in on, I believe on, what was it? Overquill? Maybe Overquill. Or was it Haxorus? I think it was just Haxorus. Yeah, it was definitely just Haxorus. And then it goes for Endure on Chandelier Shadow Ball, and it kills Haxorus, Valiant, and Sanity. So the issue here, or the biggest one, was that he had nothing to beat Volcanion plus Corv. Really just Corv, but just the support around it was basically impossible to beat. Like, he had no switch-ins to Volcanion. He had no answer to Corv. No safe answer to Corv. If Rocks were up, this game was over, and it's probably just an outright, maybe even 6-0. Like, if Rocks were up, this game was probably a 6-0. But he didn't get Rocks up, so... yeah, I mean, just... Sableye could never beat Corv plus Volcanion. And it became really problematic, because he just kept chipping down his own team. It was never making progress. That was the issue. He just never made progress versus his team. He was able to get damage into Darkrai and Garchomp, but that doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. HP into Darkrai doesn't matter. No, what ends up happening is Darkrai is sacked to a Shadow Ball because the Shandy gets in on Corviknight, goes for Shadow Ball on Darkrai. Yeah, he never reveals to be Scarf on Chandelier. So that's why Flame Charge was so crazy, because if Sableye wants to just get the damage off into Volcanion at that point, because that's a relatively valid thing to do, and he just goes for Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball might 2-hit KO. I don't know if it does or not. It's probably a roll, but it's probably in Volcanion's favor. Volcanion was Boots though, so maybe. If Chandelier just stays in for Shadow Ball, then he's gonna get 2 Shadow Balls off, which could kill, and that'd be really problematic. So Flame Charge was not like a gimme play. But yeah, Sableye just kind of didn't have anything break. Then we get to Arc. Woo, Arc played Razor. Both were sitting at 0-3. Someone was gonna get their win. It was Arc. Arc's up. He was sitting at number 16 just a few weeks ago, and now he's sitting at number 12. Big jump. Especially if he can win again. It'd be crazy. If he wins again, that would suck because he could be sitting at 3-2, and he's, well, just 2-3, but still. The only thing I complained about is prep. I think the prep was decent. Double Scarf was weird because I just feel like it was really unnecessary. And also that Landers probably should not have had Psychic. He said it was for Heracross, and I understand that completely. I think it's a valid thing to have. But the issue is you have nothing to touch Zarude unless you U-turn. And you also don't have anything to hit Talonflame. And you have so many things for Heracross. You have speed control in Scarf Azelf and Victory Bell. You have things that just naturally outspeed Heracross if it's not Scarf in Cinderace and Ninetales. And, like, it's just free. And, like, the Sludge Wave still does a good chunk to Heracross, too. It's not like you don't do anything to Heracross. I don't think you need Psychic. I think you probably should have been Sludge Wave. But he wasn't, and I understand why not. I just think he should have been Sludge Wave. And no rocks on Regirock was horrible. Just outright horrible. I'm just gonna say it. He definitely 110% should have had Stealth Rock on Reggie. I understand why not, but you just should have had it. You get way too many free turns in this game versus like Gastrodon, versus if you Terra, you get free turns versus Metagross. Zarude. Like you just have so many free turns potentially, and Talonflame too, and Avalugg. You have so many free turns. Which Avalugg is a little bit less so because you can just spin, but you get the point. So many free turns and you don't have rocks. It's just whack. But yeah, he gets the lead. He kills the Golduck early, which is actually a big threat to his team. He had nothing for Surf. With spikes up, he got 2 layers of spikes. He got 1 layer. He got 1 layer of spikes up. Yeah, he gets 1 layer of spikes up early, which is big because it means just Surf has no switch-ins. There's no Porygon. There's no Raging Bolt. There's no Vaporeon, which are the 3 switch-ins to Surf. Major Ball resists, but it takes way too much, and if it Terra Fires, it's also weak at Surf. So, Golduck was extremely important. Like, you realize if Victor Bell Terras, Surf is super effective into 5 out of 6 of these members. And Azelf takes like 70+% from Surf. Surf can so easily win this game. And he sacks it turn like 3. He sacks it turn like, it's early on. I don't think it's turn 3. Is it turn 3? Nah, he sacks it like turn 5. And you can literally win the game. Really big loss. He didn't expect Scarf Azelf, which is good on Ark's part to have Scarf Azelf. But he kills, honestly, the biggest threat to his team. Like, it genuinely was the biggest threat to his team. Surf can so easily win this game, and he killed it, like, very early. And he still has another Scarfer, too. It's not like his speed control's dead. And there's no rocks up either. And Azelf has Levitate, so it's not taking spikes. So he still has so much control at that point. And then eventually we get into a situation where Zarude comes in, pivots out on... What does it pivot out on? He U-turns on, I think, just Ninetales. I'm guessing. I don't actually remember. Was it Ninetales? Had to be, I guess. I don't know what else it would be. Unless he was land... No. Where else did he go? So they took a U-turn. Had to be Ninetales. I'm guessing Ninetales. Either... Yeah, no, it was definitely Ninetales. Unless it was Regirock. Might have been Regirock. I don't remember. But it gives Razor slight momentum. The issue with Razor's team is that he got momentum, but he had nothing to take advantage of it. So Razor's team was Zarude, Fezandipity, Gastrodon, Golduck, Avalugg, Meloetta. So, oh no, I know what he goes. He goes Meloetta and clicks Psychic. Yeah, he just doesn't have much. Like, when he has momentum, all he can do is go Meloetta, which is very good here. Psychic's very free. The issue with that is it's just kind of slow. Well, it's not necessarily slow. It's just that Arceus is fast. Team is pretty quick. Scarf, like, he has 4 Mons, potentially 5 Mons, that outspeed Meloetta. And Victreebel does a shit ton. Cinderace does a shit ton. Ninetales doesn't die. Azelf won't die to a Psychic for full, but after they took the damage, he would have. But and then Landorus had Knock or U-turn or something, so it also did a shit ton of damage into Meloetta. So it's not... Meloetta is very good and he can click Psychic very freely. The issue is he doesn't really get it in very safely. He very easily takes chip damage. That will put it in range of even like Earth Power from Landorus and Flamethrower from Ninetales and stuff like that. So Regirock comes in on the Psychic and it takes a shit ton. But then I think he switches out Meloetta into Gastrodon to get up spikes. Which is big because I think it's Custap Reggie or something. It doesn't get the if it was Custap, then he was in. And I think it was Custap. I think it was Custap. And he went for Thunder Wave on the Meloetta, but he doesn't get it off because he goes Gastrodon. And at that point, he doesn't have rocks. So, as I previously mentioned, these free turns you get in the Gastrodon, you don't get to take advantage of them. Because you don't have rocks. He's Body Press, Earthquake, Rock Slide, Stone Edge, something like that. His free turns don't matter. Which is tragic because you'd have rocks early. But he ends up, the opponent gets in Avalugg on Regirock to attempt to spin away rocks. But first off, the Gastrodon gets another spike off into Ninetales. I think it's Ninetales, right? Had to be. So at that point, there's 2 layers of spikes up and Ninetales is in. I think he just clicks. What does he click at that point? I think he just Energy Balls? Did he Energy Ball? Yeah, I think that's what happens. He just Energy Balls. And then Zarude comes in. And the Zarude U-turns again into... I don't remember. But he ends up getting Avalugg in on like a very weakened Regirock. And instead of just sacking that very weakened Regirock that is at 16 HP, he sacks off a almost full HP Ninetales. That doesn't make sense, does it? Because Ninetales was like pretty good here, and it just provided Sun for Victory Bell was the biggest thing. And he just sacked it off. I mean, the Sun Core is very good. But yeah, it ends up not mattering because while he loses his Sun, he just has Regirock sacked for later, and Zarude ends up being in on... Zarude ends up killing Victory Bell with U-turn and gets in Meloetta on the Landorus, and it takes chip for Cinderace, so at that point Cinderace wins. He doesn't actually win, he ends up not having to get it in because Landorus 2 KOs the Meloetta, it crits the Gastrodon, and then Zarude's able to kill Landorus, but it doesn't matter at that point. So yeah, the prep, I think, was the biggest thing for Arc. His play wasn't really that good. Like, he didn't really do much. And honestly, he got predicted, like... Well, he didn't necessarily get predicted. He just got played around very well. Like, he played around Nasty Plot Ninetales. He played around Victory Bell under Sun. And, like, Victory Bell got, like, 1 kill. Ninetales got 0 kills. So, like... they were both positioned to get kills. They just didn't really. But ultimately, the Scarf Landorus and the Scarf Azelf ended up catching both things off guard. The Azelf was able to kill Golduck, which is the biggest threat to the team, and Landorus was able to kill the Meloetta because the Meloetta went for Relic Song, tried to be faster, and then wasn't. So yeah, it was tragic for Razor Claw because at this point you're sitting at 0-4, you're nearly out of playoff contention. You would basically have to win out and then still get help because there's a lot of 2-2 teams. Everyone's at 500 right now, so a 5-4 team will almost certainly make the playoffs. There might be multiple 5-4 teams that make the playoffs, but I don't think that starting 0-4 is favorable for him. Well, Arc gets a very necessary win. Because if Arc fell to 0-4, same situation as Razor Claw, it'd be very hard to come back from down 0-4. In a 9-week season, it's just basically not going to happen. Next, we get Will at number 11. Will played Marcus, and he had a God matchup. He could have brought 3 Pokemon, and he probably would have won. Ogerpon is incredible here. He has nothing to one-shot it except Iron Moth. And it one-shots most of the, or it doesn't really one-shot most of the team, but it does a shit ton of damage to everything. The issue is Sylveon can't do anything to it. It can live, but it can't do anything to it. Moth dies in one shot because he's Stomping Tantrum. Thund dies. Ogerpon gets 2 KO'd and can't kill back. Kingambit dies. And then Dragapult probably dies to knock or play her off or something. I don't know, actually. But so, yeah. No, I would say knock. It probably dies to knock after rocks. So, yeah, Ogerpon has a god matchup. And then Bundle hasn't somehow manages to have an even better matchup than an Ogerpon. It kills Moth in 1, now speeds. It kills Thund in 1, now speeds. It kills Ogerpon in 1, and outspeeds. It kills Pult in 1, and outspeeds unless it's Scarf. So at that point, all he has is Sylveon and Kingambit that live. Which live, but Kingambit gets to a KO and can't kill back probably, unless it has like a lot of dead. And then Sylveon can live and kill back probably. If it's like offensive, it can kill back. So yeah, they have a god matchup. And then whatever he's weak to is pretty much just Kingambit or Shifu checks. It's a very simple game. Like, he didn't really have to do much. He just kind of led Glamora, got up rock. Sorry. He led Glamora and got up rocks. And then just got his Ogerpon in. Killed 2 Pokemon. On Kingambit, he went harder. Shifu U-turned. On Sylveon, set up Dragonite just to chip it down. Put it in Ogerpon range. It gets another Trailblaze off. Kingambit comes back in. Or Shifu comes back in on Sucker. At that point, I think it just U-turns again. Yeah, it just U-turns again on Iron Moth, and then Bundle comes in and sweeps. Very simple game. I told you the turn order right there. It was like a 15 turn game that Will could not lose. He had 3 Pokemon. He could have just brought those 3 Pokemon. He probably would have won. Electrode came. It got Chip off into Thund to put in a range of Ogerpon. Glamora just got rocks up and died. God. Got rocks up and died. And all Dragonite did was get damage into Sylveon. So yeah, those 3 monsters got Chip and everything. That was necessary, to be fair, but they just didn't do much. Very simple game from Will. He just prepped it right. He didn't really have to do much, but he prepped it right nonetheless. And he won because of it. Next, we get Wreck-It Mike, who kind of situation sucks for him, but we'll get into that. He played Dashing Sceptile, who was 3-0 going into the match. Probably shouldn't have been 3-0, but he was 3-0. You see the 6 that he brought. Sceptile had Bax, he had Slowking, he had Torn, he had Alu, he had Mienshao, and he had Lokix. He just had the top 6. Lokix was Banded, Mienshao was Scarf, Alu was AV, Slowking was Shuka, Colbert, Shuka, he was Shuka, I think. Torn was Taunt, Knock, U-turn. Bax was Mentor, Dragon Dance, Glaive Rush, Shenanigans. Yeah, I was very surprised to see no Ninetales from Mike. I thought Ninetales had, for one, an offensively very solid matchup. Beats Lokix, beats Mienshao, beats Alu, beats Torn, beats Bax. The only thing it can't beat is Slowking. So first off, offensively, it is a really, really good matchup. But just second off, like, Veil to control Bax, to control Lokix, just very good. Mienshao too, control Mienshao as well. Just Veil would have been very good here. The only way we can get rid of it is defog Torn, I think. I guess he worried about setting up the Hail for Sandslash, because Sandslash can be annoying. Actually, Sandslash can be a really big threat. Like a really big threat. So, maybe that's why he didn't bring Ninetales. But that had to be it. Because otherwise, Ninetales had a really good matchup. I was very surprised not to see it. He brought Tenga Deoxys. It was Tenga counter. It was Life Orb, Kilowattrel, Scarf Chiyu, Booster Treads, Defensive Como with Rocks, and then Banded Palafin. Pretty solid team. I liked it. The only thing I would have changed was Ninetales somewhere, but like who you gonna sub it in for? You really want Treads? Maybe no Dio, but then you don't have Spikes and Hazards are broken versus Sceptile. He cannot get rid of them. He only has Defog Torrent, and I don't even know if Torrent gets Defog anymore. Does he still have Defog? He has that and Spin Sandslash. And that is it. And if Lokix isn't Boots, it's taking... If Rocks and Spikes are up, it has 3 switch-ins. Backs doesn't have to be Boots. It can take 25%. It has 3 switch-ins. Like, Sceptile's been very aggressive with not running Boots on his Pokemon, and that's an issue because his team is really Hazards weak. I understand the idea that you have Regen Pokemon. The issue is he's running Boots on his Regen Pokemon and not on his non-Regen Pokemon. Lokix should have been Boots here, and it wasn't. But yeah, I mean, all Mike does is he gets his Hazards up, and then that just basically limits the amount of switch-ins Sceptile has to stuff. Kilowattrel puts on a lot of a lot of pressure because it can just Volt Switch. Lead matchup, it's Como versus Lokix. So he gets his Rocks up literally turn 1, completely free. And Rocks are really big because it's not Boots Bags, it's not Boots Lokix. And it means once you get a Spike up, Alomola is taking a shit ton from... Alomola is Assault Vest like Max Def, which takes Chiyu on just fine, but with Hazards up, it doesn't. So yeah, even Chiyu can win, but it force a lot of damage. It can't really win because there's a Scarf Mienshao and a Torn that also lives, but it still puts on like a lot of pressure with Hazards up. So yeah, he gets his Rocks up turn 1, and it brings in Slowking, and he makes he goes Kilowattrel on Slowking, which is weird, but the opponent ends up going Torn. So you get an amazing position where you get initiative immediately, and you get a Volt Switch off on a Slowking, and you go Chiyu because Chiyu is broken. You Dark Pulse, and the Alomola reveals to be Assault Vest, which is good that you know that early. It's relatively easy to assume, but nonetheless, now you know. No, he clicks Overheat. He doesn't even click Dark Pulse. He clicks Overheat, expecting Mienshao, I suppose. Well, because, like, the thing is, if it's Assault Vest Alomola, it's going to come in here, and it's not taking anything from Dark Pulse anyway. If it's non-Assault Vest, it means Mienshao's probably Assault Vest. So, he would want to Overheat, right? I don't know. Hindsight's 2020. It didn't really matter what he clicked there. Alamola's probably not coming in if it's not Assault Vest, because it takes a shit ton from Dark Pulse. And if it is Assault Vest, you're not taking anything from Dark Pulse anyway, so you want to cover Mienshao if Mienshao's the answer. So I understand Overheat. But yeah, it gives the Alamo momentum, and then he plays Kilowattrel very aggressively. Like, he uses it as a switch into Torn every time. He uses it as a switch into Alomola every time. Like, he plays it very aggressively. Which is good and bad. Good and bad. He also brings it in on Slowking constantly, which I think that's bad. I think bringing in Alomola Torn makes sense, but I don't think bringing it in on Slowking is necessarily the most free thing. But I understand, like, if it's Sludge Bomb Slowking and it gets Sludge Bombs off, Deoxys isn't Recover. So it can't actually really... And it can't do anything back either. All it can do is knock. So Deoxys can't do anything to it, and it can't get his HP back. So it makes sense going Kilowattrel every time, because you're kind of forced for that to be your answer. Which sucks, but I mean, it just kind of is what it is. But yeah, it's like never punished. Because he like never goes for Psychic. On the flip turn, on the Kilowattrel, he just goes Lokix, and he clicks First Impression. He takes 25%. That's his first 25%. He clicks First Impression, but there's a defensive Como right there, and he doesn't even Terra, which is he he says it's a mistake. He didn't. He would have done it, but he autopiloted just clicking first impression. Which sucked because you would have gotten extra damage that would have put it in me and Shao range or close to me and Shao range and first impression range next time, maybe. So it's really big that he didn't click it, but I mean, it's really good for Mike that he didn't click it. Loki does reveal to be a choice band. Goes for Clanging Soul, or Clinger's the attack. Clanking Scales. And the Slowking, it is a good chunk. Forces Slowking to recover as you get in. What do you get in? Do you get in Chiyu again, or do you get in? I think he goes Deoxys this time for spikes. I think this time he goes Deoxys for spikes, and that brings in Torn. Yeah, that's definitely what happens, right? Torn goes for Taunt on a Thunder Wave, which actually helps Mike, because if it had gone for Knock, you would have lost your Tanga Berry. But he ends up keeping his Tanga Berry, and he's able to go back to kill Watcher on Knock. Just get a Roost off on Torn. And then the Slowking comes in, or the Bags comes in. Like, the issue with Sceptile's team is that he can just never really get through. Like, Mike has all the answers. Kilowattrel comes in on Alamo Torn pretty much every time. No Rocks Up hurts. The issue with Sceptile's team, there's a lot of issues with his team. Number one issue is that his rockers are Sandslash, Tinkaton, Palisand. That's not very good. Sandslash and Palisand especially. Obviously, Tinkaton's okay, but he didn't bring it here, and it was very bad in this matchup anyway, so, you know, it makes sense why you wouldn't bring Tinkaton. But the issue is, you don't have rocks. Your defensive regen core can't, like, Logix is so good with hazards up, and you have one Spiker, and it's Sandslash. You have bad rockers. You have one real rocker. Electric's completely fucked his team up, and this is why Kilowattrel just kept volt switching every time, because he never really needed to click anything else. I don't know, like, Mike just maintained, he got his hazards up, he just volt switched with Kilowattrel every time, he was able to kill low kicks with the Tango Berry, Chiyu puts on pressure because Alamola takes 24% on switch in, or I guess 25% on switch in. And then it takes Dark Pulses, but it can regen it back, but it can't do that every time. And then I think it just comes down to... It comes down to Mienshao. Which, because he ends up snacking Deoxys, but Mienshao can't 2-hit or probably can't 2-hit kill Komo-O, and then Palafin can just revenge it. Mike just had control, really. I mean... Anytime he lost control, he gained it back very quickly. Like, there was a time where Alamola Flip turned in, and he had, Sceptile had momentum. But Mike got it back basically immediately. He just controlled low kicks, controlled Chiyu, controlled backs. These mons didn't really become issues. And he didn't have to do a ton, but he played very well to not lose to anything. Like, literally not lose to anything. Scarf Mienshao is never going to sweep. Bax is definitely isn't going to sweep. He just didn't lose anything. Next, we got Marcus. Marcus' game was very simple. Will could have brought 3 Pokemon, and he probably still would have won. Ogerpon has a God matchup. The Bundle has a God matchup. And then Urshifu checks King Gambit. And that's it. That's all you need. Glamora helps with rocks. Dragonite gets some damage into Sylveon. And Electrode gets like 80% off into, or like 75% off into Thun. That's like 80%. Puts it in Trailblaze range though. Like the Electrode and Dragonite just got damage off into things that needed to have damage off. Glamora got the rocks up, and then Bundle and Ogerpon did the heavy lifting. Marcus's matchup was probably not very good. But I will say, at the end game, he clicked rocks in front of a Bundle that was set up So I don't really know what the game plan there was. I don't know if it was a misclick. I kind of assume it was a misclick because I don't expect him just to click rocks in front of a booster bundle that literally ends up sweeping him. I assume it was a misclick. They had to switch to showdown, so which is more likely for a misclick. I'm just going to assume it was a misclick because otherwise I don't really know what he's doing. But yeah, I mean, bad matchup, really bad matchup. He also got outplayed. Gambit wasn't never played aggressively. Urshifu came in every time on just two sucker punches, but Urshifu came in on two sucker punches, allowed a U-turn both times. Like, he needed rock sub to help with Ogerpon, help with bundle, but he didn't get them up, and it was just I mean, there's not much to say about this one. Marcus just didn't have a good matchup, and he didn't play his outs. This was partially his fault, but it was also, again, Bundle and Ogerpon are almost impossible for this team to deal with. If Ogerpon gets +1, it kind of just kills everything for the most part. And it did, and it killed 2 Pokemon. And then it came back in and killed another Pokemon later, and then Bundled cleaned up. It was a very hard matchup. Spider! I love Spider's team. I love what he brought. I didn't have any complaints, except I would have been Black Sludge over Rocky Helmet on Dragalge, though I do understand why you were not. Again, very much like the team he brought. I think it's very good. It was Terra defensive Regigigas. It was just booster Iron Crown. Dragalge was bulky. It was very Spadef. Thun was bulk up Adrenaline Orb for Landorus. Quack was Roselli Berry. Swords Dance. Tinglu was Tinglu. Good team. Very good team. He's able to kill Iron Hands. He wanted Landorus, but because I mean Landorus probably would have meant he swept probably. But yeah, he wanted Landorus, but he gets Iron Hands instead. It's not bad. Iron Hands. Okay, so the thing with Iron Hands going down is Iron Hands was not necessarily necessary. Like, Iron Hands lost to Reggie. It lost to Dragalge to an extent. It lost to Iron Crown. And it obviously lost to Thun too. So it was only here for Tinglu, which it still takes Earthquakes. And then here for Quack, which you deal with Broxus plus Primarina. The thing with that is that it forced Primarina to be the immediate answer to Quack, which didn't work. Well, I mean, it did work, but the issue with that is that Primarina is your answer to Tinglu, and you don't really kill that Pokemon otherwise. Chi-Impale is your best option, but A, you don't kill it. B, he has a relatively safe switch into Regigigas. Regigigas also ends up killing Chi-Impale, which means at that point you have Landorus, which it can beat it, but it struggles. And it takes a knock too, which means it doesn't even have Citrus Berry. Primarina, which beats it, but Iron Hands is dead. Salazzle, which it walls, and Bruxus, which it takes and then kills later. Like, Spider didn't. His prep won him this year. He had good enough answers to Chi-Impale. Dragalge was a good check to Primarina to an extent. Tinglu just doing Tinglu things. Quack with Roselli Berry was able to weaken Primarina to the point where Tinglu was a problem. Like, we get lead preview, and Thun takes out Hands. Then Bruxus comes in, clicks Wave Crash as he goes. Or he clicks Psychic Fangs as he goes. Reggie doesn't do anything. Then Reggie gets a knock into Lando. I think Rocks go up then as he goes. Quack gets a CC off into Primarina, which is big because that potentially puts it in Quack range later. But yeah, then he goes. Wait, how did Tinglu get in? What did Tinglu come in on? had to be Brux's Psychic Fangs, maybe? Nah. Landorus? Maybe it came in on Landorus. I don't know. He gets a Ruination off. I'm pretty sure on Landorus it came in. He goes Tinglu and goes for Ruination. Yeah. As Chien-Pao comes in. Then Reggie comes in. It doesn't get... He makes a interesting play. Like, I feel like rocks were up and Thun was dead to rocks. So I think you should have just sacked Thun to the Chien-Pao there. Because he ends up taking a Sacred Sword. Which, if that means if Chien-Pao had Icicle Crash, Sacred Sword into Icicle Crash would have killed Reggie. But he ends up not having Icicle Crash, so he has to go for Psychic Fangs, and it doesn't kill Reggie, and it dies to Drain Punch. Which is huge, because Salazzle's able to come in and revenge it, but it gets in Dragalge, it can flip turn on Landorus, it gets in Quack, and that's where the CC happens, into Primarina, to get the damage. Gets in Dragalge again, on the Primarina, as it clicks. Oh no, I think he sacks Thun there. Gets Dragalge in then to flip turn again. Gets Quack into Swords Dance, weakens Primarina. Primarina gets revenged by... Primarina's sitting at like 8 HP at that point. Which means that Dragalge can just come back in. Or... what comes in? Is it Iron Crown? It might be Iron Crown that came in. I don't remember. But either way, he kills Primarina, and the Tinglu was able to take a hit from the Salazzle. Yeah, it was no. Dragalge just comes in, takes an Ice Beam from Primarina, and just clicks Sludge Bomb. Salazzle was able to come in there, and the issue with Salazzle is that he's Terra Ground. So he has to Terra Ground to kill the Dragalge, but that just lets in Tinglu. He can Terra Blast Ground twice. I think it kills, or no, it doesn't kill. But it put, no. On Dragalge, Bruxus comes in to click Psychic Fangs, or Wave Crash. No. Salazzle. Yeah, okay, I know what happened. Salazzle comes in, Terra Blast Grounds, and then kills Dragalge, and then Tinglu comes in, he goes hard Bruxus, and then Wave Crashes, which does like 70%, which is good damage, but the problem is Salazzle still can't kill. If Salazzle was Terra Fire, it would have killed with Fire Blast. So, but it wasn't. Tinglu was able to get the damage for Iron Crown to be able to kill Salazzle. Spider positioned extremely well this game. He never wasn't ahead. He made really nothing wrong in terms of play. I imagine the only thing I could have changed was not clicking Swords Dance into Primarina, because he ends up Swords Dancing in front of the Primarina to try to kill with +3 close combat, and it doesn't kill. I think Aqua Step into close combat might have been better, but I also don't know if that killed. If it did, then that was definitely the play. And the thing is, it was Scarf Bruxus, which would always revenge Quack anyway. So I think Aqua Step into close combat was probably better, but I don't know if it killed anyway, and it probably didn't. It might have. It was probably damage roll, as well as the +3 close combat being a damage roll. But like, if it was damage roll, it gave you more of an out, because if you killed, you won. Instead of being revenged by Bruxus. That's the really only thing. He played this about as perfectly as it could have gotten. He was never really... Yeah, he was never really in a position to lose. Or, like, he was never down. Like, he had momentum all game. Quack put on pressure. Dragalge flip turned every time. Tinglu. Just being Tinglu. Yeah, I mean, he played very well, guys. No complaints. Shadow Stitch. He just brought offense. But his offense versus Sun, which makes sense. I mean, you can't... His team doesn't have anything to defensively check the Sun, so he has to go offense. Which not a bad play. I mean, again, he doesn't have anything to defensively check anything, so he has to go offense. Which I thought the offense that he brought was pretty good. It wasn't great because his team's like deals with gouging fire pretty comfortably, and the team he brought didn't deal with gouging fire comfortably. Uh, I get dealt with it okay. It's just like you have a Donphan and a Weezing and Tran and Zapdos, which is faster, and Samurai. Like, you feel like you have a good matchup at a gouging fire, but Tran ends up being like Endure Cuss Stab. Donphan's also that. Zap's Scarf, and then Weezing's like 3 attacks, protects, I think. Like, he just ends up being Gouging Fire weak. It's not a huge deal because Gouging Fire still doesn't have a great matchup. Like, Gouging Fire is just not that good here, which is good and bad. Well, I mean, okay, it's obviously bad that it's a bad matchup, but like, it's still a threat. It's still a Gouging Fire on your side. Lord ends up breaking the Sun round. He brings Gouging Fire, Walking Wake, Skarmory, Ditto, Torkoal, Slitherwing. He leads Zoroark disguised as no, not Tran. He disguises as Zapdos as he gets what was it disguised as? I think lead was Torkoal. That's good for Shadow, or that's good for Lars because Torkoal can just stay in whether it's Zapdos or Zoroark. Zoroark goes for Nasty Bot, and it gets crit, but it's Focus Sash, so it doesn't matter. And then you just go with Hard Ditto. And I feel like that was a very obvious play. Like, he sets up a Nasty Bot on turn 1. Ditto can just come in and kill you. And so maybe he just didn't expect him to go Hard Ditto. But, like, the only thing he dies to is Flamethrower there. Which, the thing is, you have to know this. The issue was that he went into this knowing that the game plan is to take it's a sack war, but he's immediately sacking Pokemon. Like immediately, he has to sack Zoroark to +2 Ditto. Tran comes in, ends up not being Choice Scarf Ditto, so it takes 80% from Shadow Ball. Gets a Dragon Pulse into Walking Wake, but Walking Wake's Haban Berry, and then kills Heatran. So he's automatically down 5-4 in a sack game, which is awful, which is really, really bad. He's able to go Latios, but he misses a Draco into Skarm, which is really bad. Because Skarm gets free Spike, but he doesn't go for Spike. He instead goes for Brave Bird into Weezing. It takes like 40% total, because from like Recoil and Rocky Helmet. And Weezing tries to predict Torkoal and allows it to get back to full, which is bad play, but I understand what you wanted, but it was just bad play. Torkoal doesn't come in. I think So is even up. So, I mean, Torkoal. Skarm was Akka though Stitch didn't know that, so he could pretty much comfortably roost every time, there at least. But then Torkoal does come in the second time after a roost. He takes a Sludge Bomb, takes not much. The Latios comes in as Torkoal doubles out into Gouging Fire. He didn't want to stay in on Weezing, clicking Sludge Bomb, I guess, because he wants his Torkoal healthy. I mean, that's fine. He goes back to Skarm on Draco again. He hits this one. Skarm ends up like 50%. And then Skarm clicks. What does he click? Does he click Brave Bird or does he click Roost? I believe that the what's it called? Torkoal just clicks, or the Ditto, or God, the Skarm just clicks. What did he click? I think he has a spike up there. I don't know. He doesn't. He never gets spikes up. Oh no! What happens is it doubles. He doubles his Zapdos, I think, or he gets in Zapdos somehow. And Zapdos, I think he doubles his Zapdos on Skarm instead of Draco. That's what it is. And yeah, that's what happens. And Skarm has to take Thunderous Kick and gets a Brave Bird off, but then Skarm's sitting at like 50% at this point. Uh, he switches and then gets like whatever. But Shadow Stitch is basically behind in this entire interaction because Lottie's never gonna sweep the Skarm right there and he Slither Wing. But Slither Wing ends up getting sagged to a Wheezing trade, which was bad. Like, it was just bad. The issue is he didn't really deal with Wheezing amazingly. Like, he had Walking Wake, which would blow it away. Like, it beats Skarm. It beats Gouging Fire. But I think you wanted to trade Gouging Fire instead of Slither Wing for Wheezing, not the other way around. Because it ended up meaning that Latios had a way to win. He has not lose the Luster Purge. And that's what he ends up panicking about. So Walking Wake ends up coming in, but he switches out on the Donphan. As the Donphan clicks, he makes Shadow makes a very good play and clicks smack down into the Skarm and kills it with Earthquake after. And then Lars loses to Dragon Pulse. Lars needed to go Torkoal on Donphan. Skarm initially isn't even a bad play, but not sacking off a very useless Torkoal after was a bad play. Torkoal didn't do anything. You didn't need Sun. Sun didn't do anything at that point. And you have to have Skarm to live versus Lottie. I think he was worried about losing the Luster Purge, but at that point, it's revealed Cuss Snap and Smackdown Earthquake. The odds of it having Ice Shard is very low. And if it is, then at worst, Skarm has a chance to beat it. It probably won't beat Luster Purge Lottie 1v1, but it could if it never gets dropped. It could beat it. So Lars did not play his out, and Shadow Stitch did. I don't know how Shadow Stitch won this, but he did. It was very surprising because I felt like he was down like the entire first half of the game, but he ends up crawling back. Volume sitting at 2-2. He plays Muffins this week, so I mean that's a tough one. Hit up bringing. You see the 6 that he brought. Muffin brought Sneasler, Zapdos, Screamtail, Archaludon, Weirdeer, and Blastoise. First off, Volume brought Choice Band of Lycanroc. Honestly, Choice Band of Lycanroc's not good here. There's an Archaludon. There's a Crocodile. They're switching to Stone Edge. Sneasler. Even Screamtail eats it up. Like, there's so many switches in Stone Edge. But there's also switches to Close Combat. But there's also switches to Iron Head. Just be Life Orb. Just be Life Orb. Life Orb was way better here. And he ends up being banded, which means he can never really do anything with Lycanroc. It's banded Lycanroc, Specs, Blaziken, 3 attacks, Bronzong with Iron Defense, Calm Mind Clef, Spikes score with Toxic, and then Calm Mind Terra Normal finished out. Really weird team. I mean, it wasn't bad. Like, I understand it. And, like, Scarf Fire Blast from Blaziken can very easily end game. It's very good here. The issue is you need damage in the Zap, and you need damage in the Screamtail, and you need Archaludon damage. And if it's Scarf Crook, then you need to have a +2 boost. Hisuian Typhlosion is annoying for it too, but I don't know. I don't think the Volume team was bad. I thought it was interesting, but I think it's very Zapdos weak. He doesn't really have anything for Zap. The best thing he has is Clef. I'm not sure. I think Clef maybe should have been Spadef Clef, like Spadef Calm Mind, just to help with Zapdos, because it seems really Zapdos weak. Like, Bronzong's his best defensive answer, and it can't do anything to it. It has Ice Spinner, but that's just doing nothing. But this game was very hacksy, so it's like really hard to gauge, and that's why volume didn't really fall much. And volume sitting at 2-2, losing to #1 and #2 on the PRs. So it's like, how much can you really fault him? He's lost #1 and #2. But as tragic as that is, he can only be so high. But yeah, he gets really lucky, but then he gets really unlucky with Sinistcha because it dies to a crit Dark Pulse from Archaludon, but then Archaludon dies to a Focus Blast. So, you know, early on, he dodges a Hurricane, gets an Iron Head flinch, Sinistcha gets crit, and he hits a Focus Blast. Crazy stuff. And Zapdos ends up getting a Discharge Parrot into Bronzong too. And then later on, the Bronzong has to come in to beat Weirdeer, and he gets full parried. So yeah, I don't know, like, I think, did Lycanroc, no, I think Lycanroc got parried too. Oh, did Lycanroc get parried? I don't think Lycanroc got parried. Maybe he didn't. I don't think Lycanroc, maybe he got parried. I think he got parried. I don't remember. But, yeah, I don't know. Like, the game was very hacksy. I don't. It's really tough because this game was very hard to gauge. Because again, it was very hacksy. There was no one that like comfortably won. Neither one. Muffins didn't comfortably win. It was. But he ends up setting up with Weirdeer, and Volume sacks Gliscor, and that essentially ended the game because Sneasler could just clean up at that point. If he had not sacked Gliscor, because the end game came down to Specs Blaziken, Clef, Gliscor, I believe, and then the opponent had Weirdeer, Blastoise, maybe I think it was Blastoise, and Sneasler, and like Zapdos, I think. Wait, who did he not have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, no, that's right. Yeah. It came down to like Blastoise, Weirdeer, Caesar, and Volume had a chance, but he sacked Gliscor, which meant he just lost to Sneasler. Volume didn't play great, but there was also just a ton of luck, and it's like really hard. But he did waste a turn on Zapdos. He made Zapdos get damage. Like, he took a Heat Wave into his Bronzong for literally no reason. Yeah, like, he took a Heat Wave and then clicked Iron Defense, so he didn't even get Ice Spinner Chip. Like, he literally did nothing. And then he ended up going Lycanroc to take a Discharge, and he took like 65%. And it was just really awful, because if you didn't take that extra damage, then you probably would have beaten Weirdeer in the end game. Like, just staying in with Bronzong is not a good answer to Zapdos. Okay? It's not going to do anything. And that was just his best defensive answer, which just didn't work. I mean, it's really as simple as that. Weirdeer. And cleaning him up after that. Gets a very lucky para, and really unlucky for Volume, because he would have been able to beat the Weirdeer after that, and then you'd have Bronzong, Clef, Gliscor, and Blaziken. Very good chance of winning at that point. It's hard to know what would have happened, because there was a lot of game left, but he gets full para, and it's just really costing the game. Then we get Sceptile, my favorite player. I have no issue with Sceptile. I know I actively act like I have a problem with him. I have no problem with Sceptile. I just don't like how lucky he is, and I hate luck. I hate Pokemon. Pokemon is an awful game. Pokemon is an awful game. But Sceptile gets the good part of Pokemon. I thought the prep was fine. Scarf, Chiempao makes, or not Chiempao. Mienshao makes a lot of sense. AV, Alomola, try sense. Taunt Dorn, obvious. Bax was cool, but I mean, it's Bax. It can only do so much. Um, yeah, the issue here was that Dashing Sceptile never got momentum. He was basically down all game. Um, like he wasn't even down all game. Like he had turns with like a flip turn to Alamomola where he could have had momentum, but then he goes low kicks, takes a fuck ton of damage, and then does like only like 40% to Como. So like the issue is Sceptile's team just couldn't get momentum. This was not Wreck Mike's team. He had like Kilowattrel and Como instead of these guys, but Sceptile just couldn't get momentum against Kilowattrel. Like Kilowattrel kept coming in and just volt switched every time, or roosted and then volt switched. Like I don't know what Sceptile was supposed to do necessarily, but I think that a Palisand bring was pretty necessary. And obviously, you don't necessarily want to be forced to bring a Palisand, but at least it gives you rocks and it gives you a volt switch immunity. And I think those would have made a big difference here. Both rocks and the volt switch immunity, because Kilowattrel's not so free all of a sudden. Obviously, he was Terrablast Ice, but like Spadef, he'll eat it up enough. And then if you force him to Terrablast Ice, then Mienshao can come in way earlier than it was able to, because Mienshao didn't come in until like 80% of the way through the game. And once Dio was dead, that mon should have came in very quickly. But it just didn't. It could never get in. Which is tragic, because Amon had no fighting resist, really. His best fighting resist at that point was Kilowattrel. And if it Terra, then obviously he's not a fighting resist anymore. But yeah, Low Kicks just didn't have a great matchup. There was a Treads. There was counter Deoxys he was getting hit by. There was a defensive Como. There's a Palafin. And a Chio, obviously, too. That he has the first impression. Like, he has the first impression every time, but he doesn't want to do that. Like, he doesn't want a first impression every time. He wants to U-turn on Como so he can get in Torn to knock U-turn with that. And get in stuff. Like, he didn't have it. I think that he didn't play aggressive enough, and it really cost him, because just Dio plus Como plus Kilowattrel ended up being really problematic. And by the time he started making plays, that's the issue with Sceptile, is he makes plays late game, but he does not do shit early game. And his early game is really bad. Maybe not always, but like here it was just really bad. He gets down early, he gets momentum taken away, and just never, like, hazards go up, and it really fucked him up. And he was really aggressive with like not being boots low kicks, not being boots torn, not being boots backs. But the issue is his removal is rapid spin sand slash. And does Torn get defog? I don't know. I don't know if Torn gets defog. Otherwise, it's just rapid spin. Does Torn get defog? Tornadus. Defog. No defog. So yeah, he has no defogger. And he has rapid spin sand slash. That is the only removal on the team. If he had hazards and like control Kilowattrel, like Palisand would have been a big deal here. I think Palisand would have been a big deal here, and probably should have came. But I mean, hindsight's 2020. I'm sure he didn't necessarily expect this route from Wreck Mike. Though I mean, I feel like it wasn't a crazy route. It's relatively obvious, I think. But he also gets a late game chance. I mean, he probably wouldn't have won anyway, but he has a chance late because Mienshao, like, close combat, it didn't do shit to Como. But he had to go for it again, because he 100% lost if he switched. And then he switches, so he 100% lost, I mean. Como switches on a close combat, it takes nothing, but it's like probably a damage roll to kill at the range Como was at, and he tries switching in a Torn, which works. Like, it kills the Como, but then it just lets him kill a Kilowattrel to claim a kill again, and it's impossible at that point. He has no chance. He didn't play his outs, and Mike did. he just kind of outplayed him. Mike, like, genuinely just outplayed him that game. Then we get a Lars. It's just Sun offense with spikes. It's very good here. Walking Wake is impossible to revenge kill with this team. Haban is genuinely impossible to revenge kill. I don't see how this mod doesn't get a fuck ton of kills. He goes up early too. Like, he goes up early. Walking Wake is able to kill the Heatran and Ditto killed the Zoroark. And it only did was cost the Ditto, which is fine. I mean, you're fine with that. But yeah, like, he goes up early. And what happens is that the game just gets closer and closer until he ends up sacking Slitherwing for a Weezing trade, which is fine. But because the issue is, then that makes Latios possible. Because Gouging Fire was should have always came in on Weezing, I think, and just clicked Flare Blitz at that point. And if he trades that, that's great because you still have Slitherwing first impression for Lottie, and you still have Skarm to live as well. So you're fine with that. But the issue is that wasn't the case. And Slitherwing's better than Donphan too. Like, he should have just gone Gouging Fire on Weezing. But either way, he was fine. But then he gets predicted with Smackdown with Donphan, which was big. But at that point, you still had a way to win. Like, you just go back to Torkoal. If he had sacked Torkoal in the end game, because it comes down to Torkoal, Walking Wake, and Skarm versus like a 50% Skarm, like in 70-ish percent Walking Wake, and a 60-ish percent Torkoal versus like a 20% Donphan and a 100% Latios. He Dracos into that Donphan to get it down to 20%, and now he knocks into Custap, which he worries about. Or he's worried about Ice Shard, putting it in Luster Purge, because he's worried about getting swept by Luster Purge. Which I get. It's a genuine concern. The issue with that is that he ends up forcing himself to lose to Dragon Pulse, which is significantly worse. Because Donphan doesn't have Ice Shard. So, on the Custap Berry, going Skarm is fine, but after you take the Smackdown, if you had sacked Torkoal and gone back to Wake, kill Donphan, and the Latios could not sweep the Skarm plus Walking Wake. There was no one move he could click to beat you. Dragon Pulse does not do enough. He would have to crit you with something. I don't know. He'd have to crit you. He could go for Draco and just risk that. Go for a Draco crit. It's not a bad play. Go for Thunderbolt. Try to crit Walking Wake. But, like, ultimately, he had to switch out of Skarm, and Lars didn't. He sacked off Skarm, which meant Latios just swept a Dragon Pulse. Complete Lars choke on that one. I mean, he only dropped 2. But, I mean, this was definitely a choke. I mean, had he just switched, he probably won, I'm assuming. We get a Fist. Fist's matchup was, I mean, it's relatively simple. Like, versus Sableye, his Volcanion and Corviknight were God. The opponent brought Iron Valiant, Serena, Rabombi, Shandy, Haxorus, Overquill. T-Spikes are really problematic. The issue is Corv can just always defog on Overquill. I think that's another thing, is that Sableye probably should have been Explosion to try to keep up the T-Spikes. The issue is, what the hell are you going to go after? I don't know. It's tough. But, or self-destruct. I think he only gets self-destruct, but still. Volcanion and Corviknight are just so good here. It's insane how good they are. Corv walled 5 out of 6 members, and Volcanion killed the other 5 out of 6 members. I mean, it was crazy. No Poliwrath meant Volcanion just clicked buttons Uh, Fist actually gets both 50-50s wrong with Shandy, and Chomp takes a funk ton, and then Darkrai takes an even more funk ton. But it just ends up not mattering because uh, the Corviknight just ends up walling out Haxorus and everything, really. And it caused a Endure Saligberry Annihilate to end up cleaning up the end game. There's not Annihilate on. I was looking at the wrong team. There was not a oh, what's it called? There was not a way for Sableye to break through Corviknight really with what he brought. And like Volcanion just like Volcanion gave you the offensive momentum, Corv gave you the defensive momentum. And that was mostly just what happened. Those two worked overtime this game. So this is the controversial part. I still have Muffins only at number 2. He is the last undefeated player because Gravy lost this week actually. But Muffins, the issue with him is that nothing with him, just nothing with him, just a lot of circumstance. Week 3 he gets a forfeit win. Week 1 he disconnected with his opponent, and then it turned into like a not 100% serious game. Week 2 was a legit win, and this one was just a fuck ton of hacks. And we like didn't get a real game here either. I mean, it was a real game. It was a real game. It's just a shit ton of luck. I think if Muffins continues to win, then he will definitely out. If Gravy and Muffin both win out the rest of the season, Muffin would probably end number 1. But right now, I'm a lot more confident in Gravy to win than I am Muffins to win. And that's not necessarily anything Muffins has done. It's just a matter of circumstance. Again, only has one, 100% serious, locked-in win. But Muffins played this one decent. Again, it was just a fuck ton of hacks, which kind of ruined the game. It didn't really give either team. Cause every turn, why is Zapdos gray? That's ugly. Actually, that's pretty cool. It's like a silver Zapdos. That's sick as fuck. Hold on a second. Maybe I cooked. Oh, because I clicked Zapdos instead of. Oh, I see. He brought Zapdos. That's why it's grayed out. It's supposed to be the Pokeball that's light, but it's not. It's the. Anyway. Yeah, this was a very weird game because there was a lot of luck. Turn 1, Zapdos misses Hurricane into Gliscor. And then the turn 3 or turn 5, a Scream Tail gets flinched by Lycanroc, and then turn 7 or 8, the Sinistcha gets crit from our child on Dark Pulse, and then soon after, Zapdos comes in and paralyzes Bronzong, and then yeah, just a lot of luck. It was a weird game. But the Bronzong, the weird year ends up actually coming and putting in a ton of work. He was able to kill. What's it called? He was able to kill Gliscor and Clef and Bronzong, and it was just too much at that point. Weird game, very hacksy, but he played well enough. His prep was pretty solid too. And we get to our number 1. Gravy lost, but it was a very good game. It's probably the game of the week. It was a good game, but it was weird because it was hard. It was hard. I watched this and it was it's tough. But The Iron Hands has to be sacked early, which sucked because it made Quack a lot harder because the Primarina was Assault Vest, which means it has no recovery. Um, so like CCs and Aqua Steps, they're just done. And if any hazards go up, it's also taking hazards. It's really problematic that Iron Hands went down so early. You obviously have Brushes for Quack, but if it's +2 speed, it's a wraps. But yeah, he brought Spikes to Lazo, which I thought should have been just Terra Fire Fire Blast. I understand why you were Terra Ground for Dragaugi, but like Terra Fire Fire Blast is doing like 40% to Tinglu and like 40% to Dragaugi. While Spikes to Lazo really doesn't do anything to Tinglu without Terra Fire. Like it's doing like 30, which is just not enough damage. I mean, it's just really not. If you're like Wisp or something, then maybe. But you weren't. Chiampao also ends up dying to a very defensive Regigigas. He expects it to kill with Psychic Fangs, and it doesn't, which means he loses a lot of offensive momentum. Tinglu becomes a really big problem because at that point you have no Iron Hands and no Chiampao. You have, at that point, no way to really beat Tinglu comfortably. You're going to lose a Pokemon trying to beat Tinglu, which he does. I mean, he ends up losing in the end game. He loses Bruxish to get a Wave Crash off, and then he takes like 60% with Salazzle, and it puts it in range of Iron Crown to Revenge. It's a really good game, but and the matchup was fine. It was fine. But Spider got to an early lead and never really let off the trigger. Like, he killed Iron Hands, and then like played very well. Like Spider didn't make any mistakes. He made no mistakes, and his prep was good too. And when you prep well and you make no mistakes in the game, you are probably gonna win. So yeah, Gravy stays at #1 even though he lost. It's very close. If Muffin has a solid win this week, and Gravy has a questionable one, he probably drops. But right now, I'm still more confident in Gravy than I am Muffin. I need to see more from Muffin. Again, it's not Muffin's fault. It's just circumstance. But yeah, that's the PRs. I'm sitting at 15, which is wonderful and amazing, and I love it here. But maybe we can bounce back. I don't want to number 16. That's it. That's my goal. I did number 16. But I put your thoughts in the comments. I mean, always good. I always respond. Always respond. I just want to know. You think Gravy? You think Gravy should be #1? Maybe not. I think you can put Muffin. I think Munted Muffin could be #1. I don't know. That's why we have comment sections, so you can tell me that you think Gravy should not be #1. But yeah, I will see you guys same time next week.